Welcome to Reddit Reader. Which conspiracy theory do you believe is true? I feel like the round earth theory is true. Governments spread wild and crazy conspiracy theories to discredit conspiracy theorists and make them look like lunatics. That way, when someone actually finds a real conspiracy, people will just go, "Oh, it's one of those crazy guys." Those sitting at the top of the U.S. society, i.e., political bosses, think tanks, owners of media conglomerates, etc., intentionally seed distrust and fear between different factions, races, religions, regions, etc., of American society so that we forget our commonality and we can't see how hard we're all being f***ed over by those at the top. As President Johnson put it, if you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him something to look down on, and he'll empty his pockets for you. Related, companies whose products actively degrade human environmental health, i.e., soft drink companies, plastic manufacturers, oil companies, etc., have very actively and aggressively pushed the personal responsibility angle so that we believe everything is up to us. Not to say that we shouldn't be responsible for our own actions, but they've perverted our sense of what their contributions, sacrifices, and initiatives should be, which could actually have a massive and genuine impact, but it also impacts their bottom line, so they sow misinformation. The original nuclear tests in the U.S. Southwest were done to also test the effects of radiation on human populations. The line on the laundry detergent measuring cup is higher than it needs to be. That Coca-Cola came out with new Coke in order to change the original formula to corn syrup from real sugar without people complaining about the subtle difference. David Kelly didn't kill himself. Now, for those who are too young to remember, shortly after 9/11, the US and the UK decided to invade Iraq. The rationale was that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, WMDs, even though the UN's chief weapons inspector wasn't convinced. A prominent UK weapons expert, one David Kelly, leaked to a journalist that he believed the report alleging WMDs was sexed up in order to give an excuse to go to war, and repeated his claims in front of a parliamentary committee. In doing so, he massively embarrassed the government because he was essentially accusing them of fabricating evidence to give them an excuse to go to war they'd already decided to fight. 2 days later, Kelly took a huge dose of coproxamol and slit his wrist, severing his ulnar artery on a walk in the woods near his home. Selling ridiculously expensive paintings is a way of money laundering. I've always thought that competition reality shows purposefully send someone home each season that deserves to stay, so that people get mad and talk about it online and get other people interested in watching the show. I don't know if I buy my own conspiracy theory, and I'm not entirely sure what the conspiracy is, but I'll repost the same thing I always post when this question is asked. I had a Vietnamese roommate in college. One time someone mentioned apples and my roommate said he could rip them in half. We all called bullshit, and so he did it to shut us up. It was pretty cool, but then he claimed that all Vietnamese people can do it. That didn't sound right. So now, whenever I meet a new Vietnamese person, I ask, in as polite and not creepy and not racist way as I can, if they can rip an apple in half. And I'll be damned if every person I've ever asked goes, "Yeah, sure." Also, most of them follow up with, "All Vietnamese people can rip apples in half." Then, I always ask if that's how people in Vietnam eat apples, and they always say, "No, we just eat them the normal way, but all Vietnamese people can rip them in half if they want to." I truly don't know if I'm being trolled or not. If I ask the question and have an apple, I'll always give it to the person who claims they can do this, and they always can, so there's some truth to it. But I cannot figure out why, in my experience, almost all Vietnamese people claim that all Vietnamese people can rip apples in half. That's a weird thing to claim. How are they so sure about what every other Vietnamese person can do? Are they implying that Laotians and Thai people can't do this? Is it a special trick they teach only in Vietnam? I would never claim that all Americans can juggle, or that all white people can juggle. See, I don't know if they're suggesting it's a racial trait or a cultural skill. Or is it that Vietnamese people are just really proud of their culture, so they like to fib about the skills everyone else has? And then when tested with an apple, all Vietnamese people are just so confident that they're awesome enough to do it that they just brute force the apple in half. Or was there a meeting once, and all Vietnamese people realized they could help each other by making wild fruit claims about the skills of the Vietnamese so that they could trick dumb white boys like me into giving them free fruit to test their powers? I would welcome any data anyone else can offer on this. My sample size is admittedly small, about 8 Vietnamese people, so this could just be a statistical fluke. But when 6 people who have almost certainly never met each other before independently claim that all Vietnamese people have fruit powers, it makes you wonder whether it might just be true. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it, dislike if you disliked it, and subscribe so you don't miss our next upload.